Friends, it's 25th June today. Many of us have already participated in various programs related to emergency, which was imposed on the intervening nights of 25th and 26th June 1975 by the then Prime Minister, Mrs. Indira Gandhi. The nation rose in revolt against that. Political leaders were arrested, and the one personality who united the entire opposition that time was Jayaprakash Narayan, or simply JP, a closed associate of Mr. Jawaharlal Nehru, father of Mrs. Indira Gandhi. We have heard a lot of things about emergency and the government that came afterwards, led by the Prime Minister, Mr. Morarji Desai. The government fell within 2 years because of its own contradictions when the issue of dual membership of RSS and Janata Party was raised by many political leaders, including George Fernandez, who resigned from the government and later became part of the ministry led by Chaudhry Charan Singh. Historians often blame Jayaprakash Narayan for legitimizing Jansangh and RSS because prior to 1975, Janasangh was confined to few urban areas of the country. It had no base among the rural population, and politically it was not a party which could be taken seriously. But Jayaprakash's anti-Congress movement gave it prominence. Leaders like Lal Krishna Advani and Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Nanaji Deshmukh became prominent figure, along with Jagjeevan Ram, Morarji Desai, Professor Madhu Dandavati, and George Fernandez. But when the contradictions emerged and the Janata Party collapsed, Jayaprakash Narayan died in between. And when the elections were called again, which are the midterm elections in 1980, the people of India voted Mrs. Indira Gandhi back to power with a thumping majority. Within 4 years, the situation of the country went out of Mrs. Gandhi's hand. There were unrest in Punjab and Assam. To quell the unrest, Mrs. Gandhi ordered the armed forces to enter into the Golden Temple complex to flush out the terrorists there. There were a lot of repercussions. Sikhs were hurt, and on 31st of October 1984, Mrs. Gandhi was brutally assassinated at her official residence in New Delhi. The subsequent days, Delhi saw the worst kind of massacre of Sikhs, innocent Sikhs. The goons of Congress Party and many others took law onto their hand and were party to killings of innocent Sikhs. The nation saw for the first 4 days after 31st of October 1984 till 3rd of November that there was no government and that the police acted closely at the behest of these goons. Mr. Rajiv Gandhi became the Prime Minister. President Gyani Jail Singh invited him to form the government immediately in the aftermath. No protocol was followed. There was no party meeting of the Congress party. And within 6 months period, Mr. Gandhi called for the national elections. The nation was polarized. Rajiv Gandhi was seen as a savior of the nation. The Doordarshan showed the photograph and the videos of people shouting "Khoon ka badla khoon se le" in front of Mrs. Gandhi's body. The election that held that time obliterated the opposition parties, and the stalwarts like Lal Krishna Advani, Mr. Atal Bihari Vajpayee, Mr. H.N. Bahuna, Mr. Chandrasekhar, all lost their constituencies. Congress came with a massive mandate and Rajiv Gandhi became Prime Minister. This massive mandate was unheard, except in the first general election it was fought under his grandfather, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. Rajiv Gandhi got more than 400 seats in Parliament. Mr. V P Singh became the Finance Minister, and the country was expecting a new government working for the people, a government free from corruption. V P Singh was an honest man. People knew him as the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh when he worked to improve the law and order situation. He lost his brother, who was a judge in the Allahabad High Court. V P Singh, during his initial days, had donated more than 200 acres of land at his Dahiya estates in Allahabad. So when he became the finance minister, the country was expecting a lot. He started Operation Cleanup in the government. He knew that many industrial houses were evading taxes. They had close nexus with bureaucrats and political parties. He selected some of the honest officials of the government, gave them free hand, and the result was a massive cleaning up operation at the Ministry of Finance. But this cleaning up operation, which resulted in arrest of a few well-known industrialists for evading tax. Sooner, those who used to donate big money to Congress party started approaching the Prime Minister then. By that time, the Finance Ministry had understood that there was a lot of illegal accounts of Indian companies abroad. And for that, Mr. Singh had approached a private company called Fairfax. Sooner, there were a lot of other things started coming out, and the establishment was jolted. The tremors were felt in the South Bloc. The Prime Minister, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, started feeling it when various delegation of industrialists complained against the Finance Minister. Soon, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi removed Mr. V P Singh from Finance Ministry and shunted him to Ministry of Defense. By that time, the entire country had known that the Finance Minister was honest and doing a great work, and the Prime Minister was just trying to cover up. And that's why when he was transferred, or maybe he was made Minister of Defense, the argument or the narrative that was built up was that there is a crisis at the border with Pakistan, and the country needs a very veteran person to handle that. V P Singh was shifted, but there too, he found out that a kickback was given in the HTW submarine deal with Germany. He ordered an inquiry for that. That again jolted the Prime Minister, and he felt that there was a conspiracy against him. V P Singh resigned from the cabinet and started going to people. Congress party started feeling the disturbances. But as happened, when the Prime Minister is powerful and the party has unprecedented mandate, it ignored the leader at the initial stage. That was the time when Rajiv Gandhi also started using the media. One of the top-class editors of those years was M.J. Akbar. He was used to defame V P Singh. Akbar broke a story that V P Singh has a bank account in St. Kitts Island. Akbar was the editor of Telegraph, but he was allowed to write articles in the Hindustan Times and also in some of the Hindi dailies, which normally doesn't happen. Akbar's story was found to be untrue. Soon, Congress party expelled V P Singh from the party, and he then formed Jan Morcha. The advisors of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi did everything that time to stop V P Singh from going to public. His meetings were disturbed. Many times when the meeting time was evening, the lights were cut off or switched off by the local municipalities, town areas. Many times disturbances were created. But the Raja of Manda, as he was popularly known, was determined. He was not a very revolutionary speaker, but he was a master narrator. He could link with people. Those who have seen speaking in the local dialects in Uttar Pradesh, eastern part of Bihar and eastern Uttar Pradesh, where he was very comfortable in speaking in a very conversational tone with the people. In 1 year time, since 1986 until 1988-89, V P Singh was able to travel all across the country, particularly in the northern belt. And a message has gone among the people that the government of Rajiv Gandhi was corrupt and Rajiv himself was corrupt. Because the high-handedness of the Congress party, because of their inability to tolerate the dissent in the party, because the party felt that till that time, not a single congressman had survived if he had resigned from the party. But here, V P Singh's public meetings were powerful. He went to the schools and colleges, addressed the student gatherings, met the student leaders, met the Sarvodaya leaders, and a large number of people. And in 1989, he became the Prime Minister. Janata Dal was the party, and there were left parties and the Bharatiya Janata Party which supported him. Now, this was an unusual government, an unusual experiment in the history of India. At one side, you have the Communist Party supporting you, at the other side, you have the right-wing Bharatiya Janata Party. But the arrangement was there because you had to make a government, and Congress was a powerful party, which had actually, whenever it did, hurt democratic norms, and that is why most of the parties which got hurt from the high-handedness of the Congress party joined hand. So when the government started functioning, there was some good sign. Professor Madhu Dandavate was the finance minister and George Fernandez was the railway minister. There was Ram Vilas Paswan, who was the Minister for Labor and Social Justice. There was Arif Mohammad Khan, Mr. Sharad Yadav, and many more. The government functioned very well. There was regional leaders like Mr. Karunanidhi, Mr. N.T. Ramarao, Mr. Other regional leaders. So it was Jyoti Basu, they all were supported. The government started fulfilling its promises. The first thing, April 14th, Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar's Jayanti was declared as a national holiday. It had never happened. His statue, a portrait, was put in Parliament, which was never. The Parliament whose constitution he made did not have Dr. Ambedkar. Then on 14th of April, 1990, Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, along with Nelson Mandela, was given the Bharat Ratna. It was the time the government took another historical decision. It was that the backlog of the candidate of the SC/ST communities will be filled only by them. Prior to that, the bosses in the UPSC would do, they would fail people in the last round or interview round. And they would either say, or not only UPSC, but elsewhere also, it used to happen that they would say, able candidate not found. And then they will fill up those constituencies with their near dear ones, their caste fellows. The government took a decision that these backlogs and these things will have to be filled by the candidate from the SC/ST community. The government took another decision at that point in time, which was granting the SC status to the Buddhist, the neo-Buddhists. There was a demand for that. But the biggest decision of that government was accepting the Mandal Commission Report. On 15th August 1990, the Prime Minister from the rampart of the Red Fort, addressing the nation, said that the government is going to implement the Mandal Commission Report. Actually, the Prime Minister had already accepted the report on 7th of August 1990 in the Parliament. There was no things were as normal. By the end of August 1990, the process of destabilizing the government happened, and protests were organized. People started coming in the street, particularly in the national capital and the urban centers. The upper caste started crying against the government, particularly, and VP Singh was abused. I think he is one of the most abused leaders in the history of India. And BJP was in a quandary. It knew that if it openly opposed the Mandal Commission report, then it will lose the massive support of the OBCs. So it was very selective. Large number of its people encouraged anti-Mandal violence, anti-Mandal campaign, because the urban middle class constituency, the upper caste constituency, or Savarna constituency. Unfortunately, the Congress party also spoke against the Mandal Commission report. That was the worst. Now, the BJP did not come out in open against the report, but to counter the report, it started an Ayodhya campaign, because the caste contradictions can only be overcome by using the religious whips and religious frenzy. And Lal Krishna Advani announced a Rath Yatra from Somnath to Ayodhya. It was to culminate in Ayodhya on 31st of October 1990. So the Yatra started from Somnath in Gujarat, and it traveled to various parts, and there was communal disturbances everywhere. People were killed. Curfew was imposed in many places. The government was just in a very peculiar situation, where the government has to survive or the country has to survive. Now, VP Singh asked Mr. Lalu Prasad Yadav, who was the Chief Minister of Bihar, to stop Mr. Advani's march in Bihar only, not allow him to enter to Uttar Pradesh. So, Mr. Lal Krishna Advani was arrested in Bihar, in Samastipur. Once he was arrested, the BJP withdrew its support from the government, and the government was a minority. That time, some ambitious leaders like Chandrasekhar, Devilal, they joined hand, and they decided to walk out of the Janata Dal. They wanted VP Singh to resign. He did not resign. He felt that he has to face the parliament. So he decided to face the parliament on 9th of November 1990 and resigned after making a whole historical speech in parliament. His government fell because he wanted to protect the Ram Janmabhoomi Babri Masjid structure. Now, that time it was like that. He did not want it to be demolished. He did not want the mosque to be demolished illegally. The government fell. BJP withdrew. Congress party opposed, and the rest is history. Chandrasekhar formed the government with the support of Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. The government fell in 40 days' time. In May, Rajiv was assassinated, May 1991. And from since then, we are seeing the different government here. But the impact of the Mandal was so powerful that BJP, despite its frenzy and communal frenzy, could not win election in Uttar Pradesh. And Uttar Pradesh was basically under Samajwadi Party or the Bahujan Samaj Party. The Mandal politics ensured that Bihar was led by the OBCs. Prior to 1989, Bihar was always dominated by either Brahmins, Bhumihars, Kayasthas, or Rajputs. Since 1989 till this date, this is almost 31 years, and Bihar never had a Savarna chief minister. Uttar Pradesh too had the same thing till 2016. 2016 or 17, when Adityanath became the chief minister. Prior to Adityanath, Uttar Pradesh was basically when Mayawati, Akhilesh Yadav, or both of them, or Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav. So it was basically the Bahujan politics. VP Singh's actions, after he was not a person who stick to the chair, that makes him very unusual, different than other politicians. He always said that I go everywhere with my resignation in my pocket, and if my conscience doesn't allow me, I don't want to stay in that government. He proved everywhere, he fought the system. And even during the election, his election campaigns were the models. He campaigned in the public style. He never used money in the campaigns. His campaign was one of the most, in terms of money, most conservative, not spending money in that. Many times he contested elections just walking around on motorcycles, many times on the public transport system. He was one of the most humble, I would say humblest prime minister that we had, who could sit in a workshop or a training program for hours and hours. Even when he was not the prime minister, he was available to activists. He contributed a lot for the Right to Information campaign and the National Employment Guarantee Scheme programs. He was actually with many of these activists. He would support them, guide them, and be with them. But what is more unfortunate is that even after his death, we see that the Savarna backlash against him has not reduced. The hatred, the contempt, because they want to just ignore him. They don't want to just forget him. This is the man who opened the levers of powers for those who have been oppressed for thousands of years. They started coming. Even the BJP has been mandalized that way. A large number of OBCs, Dalits coming in that party. Now, if they don't raise the issue of their community, it is not the fault of Mr. V P Singh or Mandal Commission. It is the fault of these leaders. So after so many years, we have seen now a systematic and brutal reversal of the whole Mandalization. The methodology is different. The religion, the dilution of reservation, the privatization campaign, the nationalism frenzy, all kind of things. But more important than that is the failure of the political leadership of different parties in the North Indian states. Now we all talk and all want that all should come together. But nobody can come together without a program, without a political program. There are no links. Parties are silent. The political parties representing the Bahujan Samaj need more democratization process. And when I'm saying more democratization process, I mean it. They need to attract more communities in their parties. The party should not become one Jat party, one caste party. And that is where the Brahminical parties are using these contradictions. In the politics, every party will try to grab the space. I had wished that Uttar Pradesh follow the Tamil Nadu model, where you have DMK, ADMK in the opposition, in the government, and they follow the ideals of area. But now Uttar Pradesh and Bihar gives very cynical responses. Today is 89th birthday of V P Singh. The maximum number of campaign and compliments and celebrations and remembrance came from south of India, from Tamil Nadu. I remember having spoken to Mr. K. Veeramani about this, and he was a pain. And he informed how he feels, what is the importance of V P Singh. That Tamil Nadu always reciprocated. It is so sad. And this is my anguish as a political commentator, as a person dedicated to social justice, that we don't even hear a single reference from political parties, leaders, who celebrate every other person the other day to remember V P Singh on his birthday. That shows where the movement is. It is ironical that people claim that they were responsible for getting Mandal Commission implemented. Every political leader in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar claim his leader did it. But the leader who did it and faced the backlash is forgotten. I hope people will remember him at a certain point of time. When you realize that a man actually dedicated his career, a political career. In India, the political career is a big thing. He left his prime ministership. He even left, he was not a member of parliament for long, because he didn't bother about these things too much. Unlike many others who can't walk even today, can't sit in the parliament for 2 hours and still want to be member of parliament. There are many. He was not like them. was dedicated, a man like him. He was not a rebel right outward. He was never a political philosopher or a theoretician. But whenever he learned, whatever he learned a little bit on social justice and secularism, he was dedicated to that. He never compromised in that. Once he opted for Mandal Commission Report, when he started loving Dr. Ambedkar, he continued with that. He did not backtrack. And that was the thing. Many of his colleagues have joined hand with Hindutva. Many of his colleagues have gone to the opposition camps. He remained where he was. He never bothered. The power structures never bothered him. On his 89th birthday, we must remember, we must feel that there were people who were not tempted by the levers of power and who were more dedicated to what they could do. The 11-month government that he led had done tremendous work, and I hope history will judge him positively. But for that, we will have to see honest historians from the Bahujan Samaj. The day they will be in the position to write history of India and political history, I'm sure they will not ignore this humble man. Thank you.